Good morning, good morning, good morning. I hope you are all well. You amazing, amazing, beautiful, wonderful people. It's Tuesday, baby. It's Tuesday. It's two for Tuesday. Better than No, the same as Domino's. I might need to do a third video later. Definitely two. Might need to do a third. Keep your eyes peeled. If you're not subscribed, subscribe. If you haven't hit the like yet, because this is going to be absolutely amazing. Who else does stuff like
this? Come on, just subscribe. Just subscribe and like and enjoy the ride.
I'm wasted. I'm absolutely I don't mean like, I mean, I'm wasted in this field. I should be on TV. I should be entertaining millions. But instead, I'm talking about people who are not paying attention. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about the Idaho 4 case, of course, because there are still people who are not paying attention. If you are somebody who is not paying attention, you shouldn't be commenting on this crime. You need to pay close attention. I'm going to prove to you why you should pay close attention in this video right here, as I'm going to ask you a question to start with, and I want you to comment down below who said it. Now, that is, who said that Bryan Kohberger's DNA was on the knife sheath? Who did that? Who said it? And don't cheat. Go down. I want to see people who say who said it. And then after I've finished this video, I want you to go back and edit it and tell me what you think. This is going to be fun. Who you thought it originally and then what you think afterwards. But first of all, we've got to go on a little bit of a journey. So we're going to look at this article here just to refresh everyone's memory. And then I'm going to pull some notes up because I'm getting old and I can't remember stuff. And I had a Claude AI thing that would remind me everything. I forgot where I put that. So, can't make this up, can you? But I'm going to read something to you in a minute. Me and my man Eddie, we've been doing some work together. But check this out, right? Let's check this out. So I'm going to show you this article just to refresh everyone's mind. This is new. A knife sheath, fingernails and bloodstains. A closer look at the key DNA evidence in the Idaho killings case. So, in this case against Bryan Kohberger, the man accused of killing 4 University of Idaho students in November 2022, the prosecution's most important piece of evidence may be a DNA sample taken from knife sheath left at the crime scene. But several other pieces of DNA evidence, including a sample from fingernail clippings taken from a victim and bloodstains from unknown male sources, could also play key roles in the upcoming trial. So let's just put a pin in this for a second, because what we have to explain, or what's going to have to be explained, is why is this sample on the knife sheath so important, but we have to disregard all the other samples around the property. Remember, Stephen Hitler turns around and says there's far too much stuff being hidden from the public. And this is why the gag order was implemented. This is the whole purpose of this. This was to keep as much stuff away from the public as possible, and then hopefully get it so you can't mention it. You can't talk about it. There's no relevance here. And hopefully the jury would never, ever get to see it. So could you imagine? So they believe if all this got scrapped and hidden and pushed under the rug, you would believe that the only DNA sample found in the property was Bryan Kohberger's. That's what you would believe. We've got it, and then you would be trying to think that, well, we've got to explain how that happened. So it depends how impactful that story is with respect of the DNA, doesn't it? But was his DNA on the knife sheath in the first place? Again, we're going on a journey here. So, but several other pieces of DNA evidence, including a sample from fingernail clippings taken from the victim and bloodstains from an unknown male source, could also play key roles in the upcoming trial. Do you know what I mean? So Bryan Kohberger's DNA wasn't found under Madison Mogen's fingernails. Weren't. If you're somebody who feels that it was, I'll tell you what you need to do. Put your hands in your pockets and run yourself straight into a wall. Again, I appreciate people who pay attention, they listen to things, and then they come to a conclusion, or they're willing to sit on the fence and think, do you know what? I'm going to sit on the fence and let the process run out. But you would need to be able to trust the process. The process that you're going to wait on, is it working properly? Is it doing its job? Are the people around it doing what they need to do, or are they trying to hoodwink you? And we're going to have a look and see whether you think they're hoodwinking you. On the knife sheath DNA, authorities use investigative genetic genealogy, or IgG, a field of forensic science combining DNA analysis with genealogical research to connect that sample to the Kohberger's family. Prosecutors said in a January hearing, subsequent DNA testing found Kohberger was a statistical match to the sample, leading to his arrest. Technically, technically, we could all be a statistical match to DNA that was found anywhere, because we're all human and we share a huge proportion of our DNA with one another. It's only in a minuscule amount of that DNA do you start digging into the weeds and becoming our own wonderful selves. But statistical match is across the entire human race from a DNA perspective. So are they just trying to use specific verbiage to create an illusion of a statistical match? But surely not, because surely they gave Bryan Kohberger's name to Moscow Police Department, didn't they? They told the FBI, they definitely done this because they took it and come back and said, that's what you think, innit, at this rate? Or have I missed something? Anyway, let's go. But challenging the legality, accuracy and use of DNA analysis also appears to be a main focus for Kohberger's defence team, as suggested by witness testimony in the recently unsealed transcript of the closed court hearing. The defence has also hired Bicker Barlow, an attorney specialising in forensic DNA evidence. During the closed hearing in January, testimony from witnesses raised questions about how investigators used the DNA sample from the knife sheath to identify Kohberger as the only suspect in the killings, while simultaneously ignoring multiple other sources of DNA at the crime scene. The DNA could make or break the case, and it's all about what the jury finds to be credible. Misty Maris, an attorney who has closely followed the case, told CNN. Kohberger is accused of murder in the brutal stabbings of Madison Mogen, Kaylee Gonsalves, Anna Canola, and Ethan Chapman, an off-campus home in Moscow in November 2022. Not guilty plea has been entered on his behalf, and his trial is set to begin in August. He faces the death penalty if convicted. So what we've got here is how investigators use the DNA sample from the knife sheath to identify Kohberger as their only, as the only person involved in this, right? So DNA found on knife sheath. The Idaho State Lab located a single source of male DNA left on the button snap of the knife she found on the bed next to Mogen's body at the crime scene. The DNA of Bryan Kohberger is a statistical match to that DNA. Is it, though? Court documents filed, or are we all? And is that the point there? Samples from the sheath were tested for touch DNA, which can be skin cells, blah, blah, blah. An Idaho State Police forensic laboratory manager during this January hearing. That DNA was key evidence for investigators. Moscow Police Corporal Brett Payne, the lead detective in the case, said at the same hearing. So remember, Brett Payne, he is the lead detective in the case, Corporal Brett Payne, right? Idaho State Police delivered the knife sheath sample to Houston-based Offram Laboratory. This is where you've really got to pay attention, because if you blink, you'll miss it. Idaho State Police delivered the knife sheath sample to Houston-based Offram Laboratory for further testing, Nolan said. The FBI took over the testing on December 10th, and 9 days later, the agency gave Idaho investigators Kohberger's name for the first time. So this is what people are reading. They're reading this, right? So the DNA from the knife sheath was obviously the one thing we had that we thought was a very strong piece of evidence in this case. So it was that particular piece that we pursued as a potential avenue of identifying a suspect. So they're saying the DNA, FBI gets the DNA, they test it, 9 days later, the agency gave Idaho investigators Kohberger's name for the first time. Are you with me so far? So here's the killer. Here is the straw that broke the camel's back. As if you look on the screen here, this is... So, is it your understanding that the FBI's work said that it was Bryan Kohberger's DNA on the sheath? That's the question. That is not my understanding. So that is not my understanding. What is your understanding? My understanding is that the FBI concluded that Bryan Kohberger was a possible source of DNA that we should look into. They did not, to my knowledge, at any point say Bryan Kohberger's DNA is on the knife sheath. This was never conveyed to me. So was Bryan Kohberger's DNA on the sheath? Or did they conclude that they couldn't find whose this DNA was? They didn't have any DNA. they had somebody who they felt may have committed this crime, and that's the name they passed over to Moscow Police Department. Because it doesn't seem that after the other labs have really failed to, again, they haven't concluded that Bryan Kohberger is the person. The FBI takes over, they take it, they build this tree. So it would appear that the only time that you have a match, you got to remember, they then go and get Dad's DNA. They get Dad's DNA, and then they match that with a buccal swab from Bryan Kohberger. I believe that's the only time that you've got two matches between two Kohberger family members, when they take a cheek swab from Bryan Kohberger and pair that with the DNA that they took from the waste at Bryan Kohberger's his parents' home. But straight out the horse's mouth, Brett Payne turns around and says that at no point did FBI say that Bryan Kohberger's DNA was on the knife sheath. So if you answered that question at the beginning, that it was the FBI who said through their testing and the work they did that it was Bryan Kohberger's DNA on the knife sheath, then you're incorrect. Let me know down below what you think, and I'll catch you all in the next one.